In Palestine, health authorities and the British organization Save the Children denounced the death of 2 children by dehydration and malnutrition in Kamal Adwan Hospital. In Nicaragua, a high-ranking Russian security official met with representatives of several Latin American nations to study mechanisms for the protection of their sovereignty. And in Argentina, governors of the Patagonia region called for dialogue, understanding, and maturity from Javier Milei's administration. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. On Wednesday, the Ministry of Health of Gaza and the British organization Save the Children denounced the death of 2 children by dehydration and malnutrition in the hospital Kamal Adwan in the north of Gaza. Precisely since January 23rd, the government of Israel has prevented the access of humanitarian aid to Gaza despite the claims of the international community. In this regard, Jason Lee, director of the organization Save the Children for the occupied territories, assured that the world is in the presence of a massive slaughter of children in slow motion. In this context, World Health Organization highlighted that according to official data, more than 10 children per day, on average, have lost one or both of their legs or arms in Gaza since Israel October 7th. In this sense, it assured that amputations in children are done without anesthetics and antibiotics due to Israel's total blockade. The humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip continues to be of concern to many, although several countries have airdropped food. The situation does not seem to be improving as Israel also continues its bombardment. Our correspondent Noor Harasin with the latest.
In UN's latest report about the humanitarian situation here in Gaza, they said that 576 families or people in Gaza are one step away from a famine. This means that 1 out of 4 families are starving. This means that around a quarter of the population of Gaza are having hard access to water and food. And this comes actually at the time whereas there is less aid that is being allowed to the Gaza Strip. I mean, we're talking around 50% or even less percentage of the number of humanitarian aid trucks that used to be allowed in the Gaza Strip back in November and December. This comes in a time where several countries like Jordan, Egypt, France actually performed an aerial food drop on the west coast of Gaza. Yes, some of this airdrop was landed in the sea. However, Palestinian fishermen managed to pick up that food aid and bring it back to the shores of Gaza and distribute it on the Palestinian civilians taking shelter on the west coast of the coastal enclave. Talking about the latest number, and according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 96 Palestinians were killed in Gaza over the past 24 hours. And this brings up the death toll here in Gaza since the 7th of October up to 29,892 Palestinians. Harazin, TeleSUR, Gaza.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas received on Tuesday the Japanese State Minister for Foreign Affairs Tsuji Kyoto at the presidential headquarters in the city of Ramallah. During the meeting, the Palestinian president briefed the Japanese minister on the latest developments regarding the ongoing brutal Israeli aggression against the Palestinian people, particularly in the Gaza Strip. Abbas also highlighted all the possible efforts made to immediately stop the war of genocide against the Palestinian people, stressing the need to accelerate the delivery of medical and humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip. On the other hand, Japan announced the provision of $32 million in emergency aid in response to the deteriorating humanitarian situation in Gaza. Japan's decision shows that Asian nations' commitment to diplomatic efforts to improve the humanitarian situation in Gaza and to work towards de-escalation as soon as possible. Egypt's government announced the launch of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip from planes of its air forces. According to local media, Cairo is conducting an operation to provide aid, shelter, and medical treatment to the thousands of Palestinians displaced by Israel's aggression in the Gaza Strip. The information highlights that the government of Egypt is preparing to establish a field hospital inside the Gaza Strip, as well as a third refugee camp to care for Gazans who are victims of the Israeli violence. The Gaza Strip has been experiencing a shortage of food and medical supplies since the beginning of Tel Aviv bombardments and ground incursions, which have left more than 29,000 dead. In this context, the United Nations confirmed on Monday that the Israeli occupation forces are blocking access to people in Gaza, complicating the task of delivering aid in what has become a lawless war zone. According to the spokesman for the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Jens Lark, it has become almost impossible to carry out operations to evacuate the sick and wounded individuals and to deliver aid in the northern Gaza, and increasingly difficult in the south. On the other hand, the World Health Organization reported that the Israeli occupation has prevented all convoys planned to reach the north, the last 8 allowed being on January 23rd.
Convoys that have been planned over the past 1 month, 2 months, have all but been denied. Very few have been able to proceed because we have not received the assurances or the accept of our notification from the Israeli authorities. On 25th of February, so that was Sunday, the Palestine Red Crescent Society and the United Nations evacuated 24 patients from Al-Amal Hospital in Khan Yunis, including 1 pregnant woman and 1 mother and newborn. Despite prior coordination for all staff members and vehicles with the Israeli side, the Israeli forces blocked the WHO-led convoy for many hours the moment it left the hospital.
Let's now take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In Nicaragua, the Secretary of the Russian Security Council, Nikolai Patrushev, held a meeting on Tuesday with representatives of several Latin American nations to study mechanisms for the protection of their sovereignty. The high-ranking Russian official arrived in Managua, the capital of the country. His extensive agenda included a meeting with representatives of the governments of Nicaragua, Bolivia, Cuba, and Venezuela, where he presented a strategic multilateral cooperation mechanism. This cooperation will make possible to plan and strengthen the sovereignty of Latin America and the Caribbean. Measures to counter foreign interference in the internal affairs of sovereign states were discussed in detail, in addition to elevate its role in the international scenario and protect the region and Russia from the illegal coercive measures imposed by Washington and its European partners. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, led a meeting with social and political movements to receive the proposals that emerged from the great national debate on the 7 transformations to boost the country's development. During the meeting, the president detailed that at least 63,000 grassroots assemblies debated the proposals of the 7 transformations. Moreover, 10,500 proposals were received, with the participation of more than 1,130,000 people. In this sense, the president pointed out that the first phase of the 7 transformations started with strength, light, and great quality.
El 15 de enero.
On January the 15th, when I called for the debate and the elaboration of a plan to consolidate our country in prosperity, growth and social recovery between now and 2030, I was sure that the people would not fail, that we were going to do it well. And the plan of the 7 T's has started in this first phase with great strength, with great light, with great quality.
The Vice President of Venezuela, Delcy Rodriguez, rejected the statements made by the President of Guyana, Irfan Ali, who acknowledged that he violates and disregards his country's obligations under the 1966 Geneva Agreement. Through her account on the social media X, the Venezuelan Vice President expressed a confession of a party relay test. The President, Irfan Ali, with total self-confidence, recognizes that he violates and openly ignores Guyana's obligations under the Geneva Agreement of 1966. that he unilaterally has a sea pending delimitation and grants concessional guarantees to energy transnationals, breaking international law. Venezuela does not and will not recognize the fraudulent limits of the dispossession award, and he will never give up defending his right. Our response will be proportionate to the gross violations of Guyana and its imperial masters. The statements of the Venezuelan vice president come after the president of Guyana finally recently made a statement affirming that Venezuela has been building a military presence in the common border. At the same time, he indicated that there are no doubts regarding their border since Caracas had collaborated with the border settlement, ignoring the pointing out that, in addition, Caracas raised a controversy before the International Court of Justice claiming the disputed territory. In El Salvador, although the electoral silence has not yet begun, the candidates closed their electoral campaigns for the municipal and Central American parliamentary elections to be held next Sunday in the country. This is the case of the current mayor of San Salvador, Mario Duran, who after the new reform of the municipal councils is competing to become the first mayor of San Salvador Centro for the ruling party Nuevas Ideas. Likewise, his main contender, Simon Paz for the Farabundo Martí National Liberation Front, closed its campaign. These elections will be marked by the reduction of the number of municipal councils after a last-minute legal reform approved by the ruling party in the Congress, which reduced the number of municipal councils from 262 to 44. In Argentina, governors of the Patagonia region called for dialogue, understanding, and maturity from Javier Milei's administration. During a conference in the Senate, the governors also asked for humility to listen to the different sectors of the country. Ignacio Torres, governor of Chubut, Rolando Figueroa from Neuquén, Alberto Relignac of Rio Negro, Sergio Silioto, and Claudio Vidal from La Pampa and Santa Cruz, respectively, stated that they consider the impasse settled after the judicial decision in their favor. They assured that they want to build, but they remain on alert. However, they recalled that the policy failed, which is why justice had to come to their aid. This comes after the Federal Justice of Argentina ruled in favor of the province of Chubut and forced the national government to suspend the cutback of co-participation funds. According to the ruling, the measure will be in force until the refinancing of the debt is completed and for the maximum period of the current fiscal year. Likewise, the parties were urged to cancel all refinancing the government's debt with the province. The judicial measure was taken after the governor of Chubut, Ignacio Torres, demanded the return of more than $16,000 that the state withheld from the co-participation funds and which originated the conflict with the governors. For his part, the administration of Javier Milei assured that it will not accept the court's order and that it will appeal the decision of filing a per saltum to try to challenge the decision through legal proceedings. We have a financial break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. Spanish farmers in the northeastern region of Catalonia took to the streets again on Tuesday to protest the sector's struggles, blocking highways with tractors, including a busy highway linking Spain to southern France. Catalan farmers demonstrated earlier this month when 1,000 tractors converged on Barcelona, beyond the sector's demands across Europe and Spain. Catalan farmers are suffering from a 3-year drought and are angry about water restrictions imposed by local authorities. Thousands of people marched through Madrid on Monday following a demonstration 5 days earlier in which 500 tractors entered the city. Since the start of the protests in Spain, unions and protest organizers have met several times with Agriculture Minister Luis Planas, who pledged to ask the EU to simplify its common agricultural policy.
They don't allow us to irrigate. We have water in the wells, but they won't let us irrigate because then they penalize us. The drought situation is very serious. Our crops are dying, and we're not allowed to irrigate.
Seeing that things are not working, that the performance of the farms is not what it should be, that people are not making a living, the administrations put many obstacles in our way, and the large distribution continues to use its power to punish agricultural prices. The truth is that people are quite tired of a series of circumstances, and the drought is also adding to it.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov described as suicidal the European country's announced intention to create a coalition to supply Ukraine with missiles to attack the Russian territory. The statement was made after French President Emmanuel Macron announced the creation of the 9th Missile Coalition during a conference in support of Ukraine held on Monday in Paris with the attendance of some 20 European leaders. Lavrov warned that the alleged coalition is intended to supply long-range weapons to Kiev in order to strike Russia's hinterland. The top Russian diplomat sentenced that those who not only express such ideas, but even allow them to arise in their heads should use those heads for more rational and safer thinking for Europe.
For the first time in all the discussions on how to further support Ukraine, Macron mentioned the creation of some kind of 9th missile coalition, which will include the supply of long-range weapons so that they reach deep into the Russian Federation, which in itself is suicidal. It seems to me that those who not only express these thoughts, but even allow them into their minds, they should use their minds for more rational, safer things for Europe.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Tuesday that his government did not justify the attacks on commercial ships by the Yemeni Houthis, but at the same time he affirmed that the United States had no right to bomb Yemen for that reason. The top Russian diplomat also urged ensuring the safety of international navigation in the Red Sea through political and diplomatic means.
We do not condone the shelling of commercial ships, no matter how these shellings are justified. But we also cannot condone the aggressive actions that, under this pretext, the United States and Great Britain are taking against the territory of the Republic of Yemen without having any international mandate for this. We agree with our Yemeni friends that ensuring safe international navigation in the Red Sea should be a priority for all responsible members of the international community. And this problem must be solved through political and diplomatic means.
In the United Kingdom, a court decision on Julian Assange's appeal against his extradition to the United States is scheduled for March. 2 days of hearings in London's High Court concluded Wednesday as WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange appealed against his extradition to the United States. 2 court judges stated that they need time to make a decision in the case. If extradited, the WikiLeaks founder would face up to 175 years in prison for exposing U.S. war crimes. Chad will hold a presidential election on May 6, ending a 3-year junta rule. The announcement was made on Tuesday by the National Election Agency, with a commitment to hold 2 rounds over May and June, with provisional results due on July 7th under a promised transition back to democracy from the junta rule. The agency said it would publish the list of candidates selected by the Constitutional Council on March 24th. In December, Chadians voted in favor of a new constitution that critics said could help cement junta leader Mohamed Idris Deby's grip on power as it allowed him to run for the presidency. Mohamed Idris Deby seized power after his father, President Idris Deby, was killed on the battlefield during a conflict with insurgents. His military government is one of the several juntas currently ruling in West and Central Africa, where there have been 8 coups since 2020, sparking concerns of a democratic backslide in the region.
The Agence Nationale de Gestion des Elections can now announce to the people of Chad that it is in a position to organize the presidential election before the rainy season. Election campaigns for the first round of the presidential election will be held from April 14th to May 4, 2024, and the first round of the presidential election will be held on May 6. May 21, 2024 will be the proclamation of provisional first round results. June 5, 2024 will be the date of proclamation of final results by the Constitutional Council.
We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.